Hi, this is Lauber Tomase of the Boston Herald Sports Department with part 2 of our Red Sox off-season preview. Today we're going to examine the viability of the Red Sox way. Over the last 10 years, the Red Sox have clearly been one of the most successful franchises in baseball, winning 3 World Series, and they've done it by following a pretty clear blueprint. Offensively, they've built teams around on-base percentage. They've built their rotations around 1 or preferably 2 ace pitchers, and their bullpens have prioritized command and strike throwing ability over raw velocity. However, the game's landscape has clearly changed. Over the last 5 years and the last couple in particular, teams have been unable to acquire talent in ways that they could in the past. The days of adding in Manny Ramirez in free agency at age 28, that's not happening so much anymore. The days of acquiring a Pedro Martinez in his prime at age 27 from a team that couldn't afford him, that's not happening so much anymore. So the talent pool has diluted, and what that means is it affects the ways teams can build, and it has affected the Red Sox, so let's examine how. Joining me now is Scott Lauber, fellow Red Sox writer here at the Herald. And Scott, we're talking about the Red Sox way and how viable it is moving forward. You know, the landscape of baseball has changed over the last couple of years. Talent is not available like it once was. So do the Red Sox have to alter their approach to team building? And I'll start with on-base percentage. That's such a huge, that is the #1 thing they've looked for traditionally when building their lineups, 1 through 9 depth. Do you think they need to tweak that at all, maybe, because offense is down across the game? Do they need to consider guys who hit for more power but maybe don't get on base as much, and guys who have better speed, even if it's at the cost of OBP? Where do you fall on this?
I think they have to tweak it, but I think they have to be careful. And I think they realize that. After the season was over, both Ben Cherington and John Farrell said, look, let's remember the name of the game is getting on base. If you get on base, you're probably going to score runs. And while there is more value to me now in a player like Yoenis Cespedes, for example, a low on-base guy who hits for power and has 25, who knows, maybe even more homer potential with a low on-base, while there is more value in that guy now because power is in such short supply, I think that the high on-base guy has been a model that's been true through the years. It's been a model that has worked, and I don't think they can completely discard that just because power is so rare these days. I think you still need the guys to get on base ahead of the Cespedeses in order to score runs.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you look at the 2 moves, the 2 big offensive moves they made in the season were to acquire Cespedes, a guy with a 295 OBP the last 2 years, and to go out and spend $70+ million on Rusney Castillo, a guy who does not project as a high on-base leadoff hitter, free swinger, probably not going to walk a ton, puts bat to ball, and there's clearly value in that. But to me, that looks like an admission on the Red Sox side that they need to at least slightly alter and consider some different kinds of players moving forward. Are the powers that be going to try to bring offense back into the game? And the reason I ask this is because it really affects how you build your team going forward. If you think that you're playing in the 2014 landscape that we just saw, that's one way to build a team. If you think things are going to go back more to the way they were a few years ago in an attempt to get more offense into the game and get people more interested in the game, then that impacts the way you build a team. How do you think that's going to shake out moving forward?
It's a great question, and I do think that there will be, over time, there will be changes, whether it's to the strike zone or how strikes are called, in order to bring more offense into the game. Let's not forget that baseball wanted offense back in the steroid era and loved every minute of that. And I think that just in general, your casual fan likes a slugfest more than a 2-to-1 pitcher's duel, and I think that baseball realizes that.
Yeah, and this leads into my next topic, because I'm with you on this. I think scoring is going to remain down at least for the next couple of years, and that affects your bullpen. That affects the way you build a bullpen. Now, the Red Sox have followed a model on their bullpen, particularly since Ben Cherington took over. They want pitchers who throw a high volume of strikes, who don't walk anybody. Velocity is not as important. Do the Red Sox need to consider more hard throwers for their pen, those weapons who can come in, strike guys out, keep runners from even reaching base, even if it's at the cost of command?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to watch the Kansas City Royals, and this is sort of a pet peeve of mine, when your team's not in the playoffs and you watch the teams that are, and you sort of say, well, what can we adopt from this team or that team? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the playoffs are just the playoffs, and weird things happen, but it's hard to watch the Royals and watch the way they shorten games with their basically 3-man bullpen of Herrera, Davis, and Holland. Yeah. And look at those 3 guys, all of whom throw 95 and up, in Herrera's case, 98, 99, and not be envious of that and not think that's the way to win games. it almost doesn't matter what your rotation looks like when you have a shutdown bullpen like that. All you want your starter to do is get through 6 with a lead. It makes it a whole lot easier to win. And the Royals have clearly put their stock in hard-throwing relievers, guys who can get it up there. And I think that the Red Sox do have to take a look at that, with Junichi Tozawa being their hardest-throwing reliever right now, and he's really not, not a fireballer by any means. They do kind of have to, I think, take a look and bring in a few guys who can really get it up there in the high 90s.
Yeah, and the other thing to look at is when you build a bullpen that way, maybe it's not that much better during the regular season than the way the Red Sox have constructed it. But when the postseason starts, we've seen it with the Royals, like you said, that's a 3-man pen and they are blowing people away. They could not use those guys like that during the season this consistently, but when the postseason gets here, you can, and you see what a weapon it is. So if you're building with an eye on winning a title, I think adding those power arms to the bullpen is the way to go.